All right. This here, it's 4 pages long. I'm going to read it to you. It's from Meg. Um, I'm supposed to go through it and, of course, let her know if she left anything out, and I did. I definitely let her know she left some stuff out, but it's not going to be perfect. I mean, this is years of trying, years of abuse. Now, this is from Graham Milbourne. It says, "To whom it may concern, I write this letter in regards to Sean Schwartz, one of the most decent men I know. Sean, despite his own personal needs, has devoted his life to revealing the injustices of this society on those less fortunate than others. He has, time and time again, relinquished his own happiness so that truth may be known of how we as a society treat our fellow man. This man is not unreasonable, and the way he lives his life and the decisions he has made have not been without purpose. Whoever may be reading this, truly listen to what Sean has to say, as I have found only truth in his words and morality and wisdom in his heart. Like I said, a lot of people did right stuff. There's a lot more that we just simply didn't know who to go to. People are asking me, who am I supposed to go to, Sean? Who do I send this to? And I got to send them back. I don't know. Everybody's telling me it's not their job. I mean, obviously, it's illegal to do these things to anybody, let alone a disabled person. But obviously, who do you go to? This is the same issue I was having before Natalie was killed. I drove 1,700 miles to get away from them. Then, of course, I was prevented from going to court, and they didn't give me adequate time for that crap anyway. You got to have a letter turned in to them 7 days before court. And if they give you the piece of paper 6 days before court and you're in prison or jail, obviously you're illegally being prevented from going. You are illegally prevented from taking the steps that you need to go. Even when you take those steps, it's already too late before you've ever been handed the piece of paper. Let's read this. Hello, I am sharing what I have. I'm attaching two documents. The first is a letter I wrote and sent to Judge Rowland and Sergeant Jones, explained my working with Sean. Oh, fuck, I suppose I had to get the one that she wrote to Judge Brandon Rowland. This is the one that she was called inappropriate. Inappropriate for showing. There's a lot of people who made these same claims, claimed that they had gone to the police and the police wouldn't do anything. Why didn't they go in with me? Well, you get to hear people's excuses. Are they excuses, or does Meg really live over on the other end of the state? She lives on the other end of the state. And we'll read the Autism Society one again. Judge Rowland and Sergeant Jones explaining my working with Sean. The connection is unstable. Or shit. Um, The second letter was one that I typed while Sean dictated to me via the phone to help him share with the court on his court date. I also asked the court to be on Zoom and provided the letter to the superior or to the court prior to the hearing. I was unmuted and the judge addressed me specifically and told me that my submitting the letter was inappropriate and that he would not read it. She was unmuted for that long, and that's it. These things that these people are supposed to help me with, just like with the Sears house. Amanda said they're supposed to help me with this stuff, and you guys got to hear the phone call with Penny. Yeah. Really? That's help. No. I'm obviously talking to a feller, Mr. Iron Horse. I don't know him from Adam. You know, it could potentially be a very bad situation. I don't know. It could be an extremely great situation. I might get there and his lawyer friend to go, you know what, you got a really strong federal case and we're looking at a lot of money. We need to sue the shit out of these SOBs. Yeah, I'm down with that. Take them for every penny that we can get out of them. And for God's sake, we could use that money to actually help people. Those of you who got 400 new great and wonderful ideas for a tent, you know, there's a website about the homeless where, you know, obviously what we need is a place to put the tents we already got. And we got people inventing new tents. You know, one guy invented an 80-pound tent, and this is on that website, and he's invested thousands and thousands of dollars so that he can show these things. The problem is it's 80 pounds. We can't carry it on our back. We can't carry it on public transportation. And out in the woods, most of y'all don't know what the laws are. You're allowed 14 days, then you have to move out of the park. State or federal. All right, I suppose I should just probably read through this, and I'm sorry for wasting 8 minutes of time not doing that. Information I have. I'm attaching 2 documents. The first is a letter I wrote and sent to Judge Rowland and Sergeant Jones explaining my working with Sean. The second letter was one that I typed while Sean dictated to me via the phone to help him share with the court on his court date. I also asked the court to be on, I was unmuted, and the judge addressed me specifically and told me that submitting my letter was inappropriate and that he would not read it. I had no idea that this was inappropriate or why. In 2 Colorado court dates just prior to this in January of 2021, I agreed to log in to support Sean, but was muted and not able to share any information. Lastly, there was a hearing of sorts in Nebraska. I apologize, I don't know the name, in which I was given a Zoom link, but there was no opportunity to speak. It was with a judge, public defender, and Sean from, I believe, Scotts Bluff. In terms of looking for support for Sean, much of the overview was in the first letter. Additional information is below. Seeking resources. Sean has repeatedly stated that each agency he has contacted gives numbers to other agencies to call, stating that they do not provide the service, caseworker, advocate, etc. he was told to seek. He has recorded hundreds of hours of his attempts to get services from the agencies given to him. I also have made dozens and dozens of calls and spent countless hours on the phone with these agencies. These agencies provide specific services, and they do not include working on criminal and even many civil legal issues. I'm going to stop right there just to say, if I call to try to turn it into one place, they tell me they don't deal with civil issues. So I call the place that deals with civil issues and tell them the exact same issue. They tell me they don't deal with criminal issues. Is it civil or criminal? Obviously, it's both. All right, we'll continue with the reading, of course. Let's see, criminal and even many civil legal issues. Each agency gives pretty detailed descriptions of what they do not cover. The issue is most people are not aware of those descriptions and assume they will assist in all areas. Without funds to hire a personal lawyer, there is no other state agency resource in the criminal courts. The courts have advocates for minors with disabilities, but not adults. We have many adults with autism spectrum in the criminal court systems, and without family or guardian, they are on their own, regardless of their disability. If something exists, I literally can't find it. Now, mind you, we've been looking for a couple of years. She types disability rights. I have spoken to Disability Rights Nebraska on Sean's behalf, and he has also reached out to them many times on his own. I had 2 in-depth calls with them, and they do not assist in civil and criminal matters. So literally, they don't give a fuck about your rights. They say disability rights, but literally they do nothing. They don't care about your rights. They've stated that loud and clear. All right. Let me continue this. Let's see. I have spoken to Disability Rights Nebraska on Sean's behalf, and he has also many times on his own. I had 2 in-depth calls with them, and they do not assist in civil and criminal matters. They expressed they are empathetic and aware of many individuals with disabilities falling through the cracks in the criminal legal areas, but it is not in their scope of services. So they're aware. All of these services are aware that this is going on. You'd think that they would speak out. It's obvious that after going through this, the things that I've been saying about trying to get the help, that you guys pretend that I just snap my fingers and I'm entitled and it'll be given to me. Get out of your fucking mind. Obviously, they're aware. Legal Aid of Nebraska. Sean and I had a very in-depth conversation with them as well after several months of calling. Months. Come on now. Months of calling. This is according to my autism advocate. These aren't my words, they're hers, okay? Let's see. Sean and I had a very in-depth conversation with them as well after several months of calling. Finally, we got as far as having a paralegal do applications with me on the phone. The most they would do is work on SSI, which at the time had lapsed because he was incarcerated. Yeah, I was also denied medical care while in prison on false charges. I got the Medicaid card. They took that away while I was incarcerated. And then all of a sudden, I have no rights to any of that either. And when I'm assaulted by the guards in there and get a concussion, I'm denied the right to even go to the fucking hospital because they got to call back here and ask my predators for permission for me to go to the hospital because Dual County has to appropriate funds. They'll appropriate literally over $100,000 to try to cover up their crimes, paid for by the citizens of Dual County. That's right, over $100,000 altogether to prevent me from turning them in. And that's not even counting the man hour and wages of all of the other jurisdictions that Scott DaCosta got a hold of to assist him with his crimes. Anyway, the most they would do is work on SSI, which at the time had lapsed because he was incarcerated, and that they do not work on the other issues, criminal or civil. So legal aid literally does not give a fuck. They don't help. Not my words. These are hers. These are her words. This is very real. It is not a figment of my imagination. So let's go to page 2. She types, I reached out to Adult Protective Services. I suppose I should read the bottom of that. It says Adult Protective Services. And it begins on this one. It says, I reached out to Adult Protective Services, as did Sean. After meeting with him, she told him that he needed to report local incidents directly to the sheriff's office. He explained that he was not comfortable doing so alone from past experiences. I was told by the caseworker that she could help him with SSI and housing. I was surprised that they said they would work on things like SSI or housing, but not criminal issues he described. I don't understand this agency, when or how they intervene. They didn't intervene. They helped my predators. They assisted these people who had committed these crimes against me by refusing to do anything about it. Obviously, it is a conflict of interest for me to have to go to Dual County Sheriff's Department. They knew since 2018 I was trying to turn them in, and they have committed felonies since 2018 to prevent me from turning them in. This is the 5th or 6th time that they have done this when I have tried to turn them in. So I'd like to go through each and every one of them, and you guys would love a 30-minute segment like the Cosby Show. You'd like Matlock, where at the end of 30 minutes, everything is solved, everything is fine, everything is dandy, it is neat and clean, and it was the one little detail that showed the truth. You got to look at the detail. If you don't, it don't matter. DHHS, that's the Department of Health and Human Services, who Adult Protective Services is a subsidiary of. I say subsidiary as if it is a company, because that's literally what it is. These people get paid for doing nothing. All these places that you guys keep telling me these places are going to help me. No, they aren't. They haven't. They're not going to. They've made every excuse why they can't. If it is their job, then they need to do it. If it's not their job, at least there's a witness to it. That's right, a witness. That's the point with Penny. She keeps trying to push Meg out of the picture. At this point, I can't consider the Cirrus House anything other than a for-profit organization. Now, obviously, we don't have a big CEO making millions of dollars, but the employees are getting paid. What are they getting paid for? I don't know enough about their finances to say whether or not they're considered a nonprofit organization, but it does seem to me like it's being drawn out and they're getting paid for drawing it out. I could be wrong about that. I very well could be. But I guess we got to read this, don't we? DHHS. I have worked extensively on Sean's behalf with DHHS. Department of Health and Human Services does not provide case management for individuals with disabilities receiving economic assistance. They only provide case management in the developmental disability services, of which he does not have. Now, what was that paperwork that I was pissed off at Brenda Dickinson for not giving me? It was 2 weeks overdue for when I was supposed to visit with those people. 2 weeks overdue. As in Brenda Dickinson gives it to me, I open it up, I read it, it's already 2 weeks overdue. That was when I went to the Martindales. That was when Justine Martindale, aka Justine Marks, had claimed that she was going to help me the next day. And the next day I went over there. I had my paperwork for doing the developmental disability stuff. I mean, this is what we'd been supposed to be working on before Natalie was killed. This is what me and Tamara had done all of that work for. So that I could get help stopping the abuse. But then, of course, once you're called developmentally disabled, you no longer matter. You no longer are a human being to Nebraska society. This place is basically it's basically Nazi Germany. This is a Donald Trump state. Anyway, it says, let's see. Oh, and also this is literally the paperwork that when I was there in Sydney, when we had been able to go through Kaplan to get me a place, yeah, we were trying again to go through that paperwork so that we could get me the help that I needed. Obviously, that didn't go anywhere. And you guys got to hear from more than one person about, obviously Marcia Estrada as well as Amanda have both stated, yeah, me getting a guardian is probably not going to be a good thing because it's a state guardian and they don't give a shit. Department of Health and Human Services has done everything that they can to avoid this situation. APS has gone out of their way to avoid the situation. They do everything that they can. I have to go to a local sheriff about abuse by his friends. How is this supposed to work out? Let's imagine that your daughter gets raped and she's on her own and she's got to turn in her rapist to his best friend. Or even worse, in many of these cases, she literally has to turn in her rapist to her rapist. Obviously, it's not going to end well. Obviously, I've been making the effort. Obviously, these people don't want it on YouTube. Obviously, people don't want to get targeted. It says, let's see, where were we? They only provide case management in the developmental disability services, of which he does not have. I was working with Sean to apply for DD services when he was arrested in January. See? I'm sorry. All right. It says, to get any services from DHHS, you have to navigate their site and phone systems to get a new person every time you call. This is complicated for people without a disability, much less a person with a disability. He receives Medicaid, SNAP, which is literally only $16 per month, based on his income of $795, and paying $300 for shelter at the time. It is increased to $112 per month while he is homeless. It actually wasn't increased to $112 a month was homeless. It was increased because of COVID. Social Services Aged and Disabled Adults provides transportation for medical or legal appointments and meals which he is not able to access because he is homeless. He can't get meals delivered because they won't deliver to a home where he doesn't have permanent residence. There are no other services that he is eligible for. Housing. I have worked extensively on this. Sean can't obtain public housing in the state of Nebraska for at least 2 years because of the incident at Chapel Housing. Well, the incident with Chapel Housing, if you go back to the day it happened, just like I told the officer on the day it happened. It's on my YouTube channel. I admit to everything. All right. Now, is it wrong for me to admit to the thing that I have had to do out of desperation because these places don't actually help? No, it's not. I am showing you how impossible it is for somebody who is disabled to be treated like a human being by the courts. Without family, they do what they want. Also, by pretending that I'm schizophrenic, they get away with their crimes. Unfortunately, that also allows Andrew and Amy Witcher to get away with their crimes. I'm not okay with child molesters. And if you're going to choose drugs over your own kids, you got problems. If you're going to choose a child molester over your kids, you got even worse problems. And if you were too dumb to realize your daughter was a lesbian, that ain't my fault. All right. Housing. Let's see. Because of the incident at Chapel Housing. It is important to note that this can follow him to other states, and he may not be able to obtain housing in another state for 2 years as well. And it's not just for 2 years. I have to have 2 years of solid rental history. 2 years of solid rental history. Obviously, I am paying rent here. I'm paying part of the bills, but there's no rental agreement for me to take to these people. Let me see. For at least 2 years as well. It does not matter if he had several periods of positive experiences of public housing in the past. I called other housing authorities in the state to try and understand the rules surrounding all of this. I thought there would be plans and procedures in place to help individuals re-enter housing with plans to repair past incidences and not remain homeless. I was unable to find any resources that helped with this. Every call I made said that he was out of luck for 2 years. For an individual with SSI income only, less than $800 per month, and it's just barely over $800 now, per month without a rental history or credit history, it is nearly impossible to obtain housing. So basically, we're grinding our gears for nothing. Sean is currently working with a Serious House caseworker on this issue. I have no resources or ideas after looking extensively. Yeah, sure, there's all of these programs to help us out, but none of them help us out. There's all these programs that are advertised are supposed to help stop these things and prevent these things from even happening to begin with. Obviously, either A, they are obviously committing felonies and committing fraud by accepting your tax dollars from the government for services they are not providing nor rendering. types, I have no resources or ideas after looking extensively. Because of the obvious major issues with homelessness, lack of safety, shelter, etc., it impacts many other services. For example, as explained above, Sean can't receive a meal service that he is eligible for through DHHS because they won't deliver meals to a home he is not a permanent resident of. So, being homeless, you think there's all these great and wonderful services out there for the homeless, and you snap your fingers and they help you. In reality, because you're homeless, there are less services. I told you this from the start. Let's see. In Chapel, DHHS community meals are also provided at the Chapel housing buildings, so he is not able to go there to receive meals because he can't be on site. He can't obtain a bank account to secure his money from SSI because he has no cosigner to help him get a bank account, and he needs a physical address. And I was finally able to get my card up and running and going, and thank goodness that was Meg who did that. That was Meg who busted her ass to help with that. Community Action Partnership of Western Nebraska. That's CAPWN. Now first, we'll make sure that we show this. Hopefully something that's legible and you're able to read it. And of course, we'll go through this at the end as well. It says, in January 2021, I scheduled a meeting with myself, Sean, and CAPWN, CAPWN, that's Community Action Partnership Western Nebraska. It says, I had exhausted all other options of housing. They had a program where they could provide a one-time week of a hotel room in Sydney for Sean. He was able to borrow a vehicle and go to Sydney. He said his goal was to work on preparing court documents regarding the sheriff, his dispatcher, and Robert Warnick, as well as go through all the scanned paper evidence to get it ready to share with the state patrol. He was arrested at the hotel on the second day. Sure, it's illegal, but it's only illegal if somebody does something about it. None of these agencies are going to do anything about it. They've done everything they can, matter of fact, to do the opposite. Obviously, this is stuff that people need to hear and they need to understand. The Nazis did this in the 1930s. Here it is, 2021. It's been almost 100 years. And things that we complain about the Nazis doing, Nebraska's doing those things. So is Colorado. No such thing as justice. You're just disabled enough not to matter. You're just disabled enough to be denied the rights of a quote unquote normal person. But you're just quote unquote normal enough to be denied the rights of a disabled person. Now then there's the situation with former Denver deputy William Barr, and she's probably right. I'll have to go through the recordings that are on that computer over there if I can get it actually to work. Freezes up. It's been freezing up since I got it back from the cops. I don't know how to fix it. I'm not a computer guy. Let's see. Public defender and private attorney. I spoke to the last public defender he had when he was released. She suggested he may want to look for an attorney because he was incarcerated for 8+ months to then have all charges dropped before trial due to lack of evidence. Now, obviously, it was 7+ months, but typographical errors, I mean, the keys are right next to each other, and when you're trying to get it all out there, you're trying to get it all out there. To have all charges dropped before the trial due to lack of evidence. She gave me the name of an attorney. I don't know the name of the attorney, and I haven't talked to the attorney. I haven't sent the attorney any evidence. I haven't sent the attorney anything at all. So they're basically making their decisions on word of mouth. Let's see. She gave me the name of an attorney. I told Sean I would reach out to them. I explained the charges, the time period in the system, and the dismissal. They considered it, but came back with the answer that they had a similar case in the area and lost an appeal and did not have the ability to take it on with their caseload. Is that my choice? Is that my decision? Like you guys keep trying to push that I chose this, that it's my decision, that I never went for help, that we never went to any of these places, that we didn't call them, and so on and so forth. Evidence. Sean has been trying to find someone in person with computer skills to help him scan and organize paper documents, import and organize videos and screenshots for as long as I have been around. And she typed February of 2020 and before. I am not and can't be that person, and I have been very upfront with Sean about this. Yeah, and her reasons are valid. Her living on the other end of the state is just one of her very valid excuses. And it's a valid reason, but of course, it's an excuse to my predators with badges. Let's see. She typed, because of the volume of paper, he was not able to submit it in to law enforcement and maintain copies for himself. Many suggested flash drives, but he did not have the equipment, knowledge, or shelter to be able to do this on his own because of the sheer volume. Now, it's not that I wasn't still working on it, and I do have USB drives. I'm pretty sure I showed them in the video where I was pulling out the mass quantity of crap I got to go through. Yeah, there was stuff on those USB drives. It's not like I wasn't making the effort. It's that who do we take it to? No one's going to take it seriously. They want to pretend that I have disabilities, that yes, if I had those disabilities, that would certainly fall under developmental disability, no doubt whatsoever. At all. The cops want to pretend that because they think that it's in their favor, and it is great and wonderful that they can abuse that law to prevent their victims from being able to come forward. Fucking asswipes. Pardon my French. Pardon? Let's see. A lot of it is that I was able to get it partially organized before I had to move again. Now that guy, Juan Santana, yeah, whew, that guy helped. Like, holy shit, that guy actually helped. All of the evidence that we were able to send to Meg back in January of last year, that was all Juan Santana, all of it. Like, I did not have the ability to even take pictures on my phones. They were so full of evidence, so full of screenshots. And now, if there's somebody sitting here right next to me and I'm able to show them the evidence, it's a no-brainer. If I show them the Facebook crap and scroll through it, they're right next to me. They can see it, right? Of course, I got to do a bunch of backflips. Otherwise, when I go down to the sheriff's department with my whole bunch of evidence, I got to be able to have access to the internet there so that I can show these things. I got to save this evidence on the internet. And then there are many police departments and sheriff's departments that I sent evidence to, and they get back to me and say they can't see it. Now, either A, they're lying to me, or B, I don't know how to troubleshoot it to be able to send them that stuff. But if I send it to somebody else or forward the link to someone else, they're able to see it. Anyway, we'll continue with this part. Let's see. Because of the volume of paper, he was not able to submit it to law enforcement and maintains copies for himself. Even when I was able to break it down into little parts and take it to law enforcement. Well, that's not our job. We can't do anything about it. Abuse against a disabled person is a felony. All right. What Robert Warnick did outside of this very house was and is still a felony. But Dual County Sheriff's Department is not going to actually investigate it. They literally helped Robert Warnick to try to frame me for a crime I didn't commit by outright breaking the law and not collecting the evidence. They weren't interested, though, were they? Why would they be? They are committing felonies, and they're using the court system and their position as officers to get away with it. And these are the guys I'm told to go to repeatedly. I have to go to local, crooked, corrupt law enforcement that I'm trying to turn in, and it's nobody's job. Obviously, that is a conflict of interest. Obviously, Nebraska State Patrol intentionally created a safety issue for me by forcing me to go to people who have repeatedly broken the law to prevent their wrongdoing from being shown. These are all mandated reporters. It says many suggested flash drives, but he did not have the equipment, knowledge, or shelter. It's the knowledge I lack. I've got all the fucking equipment you could imagine, I mean, let me show you just the electronic equipment. So, I mean, it's not that she was trying to mislead anybody. But yeah, I got 3 and now 4 phones full of evidence. I've got this computer, which was supposed to be my R&R from all of that crap. Hold on a second. All of that crap. Now, it was well organized, but the dog heard something outside and wanted to run across it all because he wanted to bark at somebody who was driving real slowly by. Who was it? I don't know. I put a blanket over the fucking window. Pardon my French. It says A person on the internet reached out to Sean telling him they could help. Stephanie Mejia. They did come to Nebraska, Colorado twice with a friend at the end of 2020, requiring money for travel and food from Sean's resources. Sean paid their way to travel. One of the two people did finally take photos and upload all to Google Drive, as I have previously mentioned, and did not help him in the other ways they said they would. Now, Juan absolutely would have if Stephanie had asked him to. Juan's a badass. I mean, fuck, dude. You know, I'd rather he stuck around and helped me because he wouldn't have been busy on Ventus's nuts. Let's see. And I have previously mentioned and did not help him in the other ways they said they would. He is still struggling to organize the video and scan files because he lacks a permanent place to live in order to organize so that he can provide usable evidence to law enforcement. Then, Dual County Sheriff's Office. The Autism Society of Nebraska received an email from a Deputy Bo Fisher on February 16th, 2020. Thank you, Deputy Bo Fisher. By the way, he got fired. All right, let's continue. What's the chances that he got fired for trying to help me get an autism advocate? We'll have to ask him. Stating that he was looking for an autism advocate for Sean Schwartz at his request and provided Sean's phone number. I called Sean back and talked to him. From that point through today, I have tried to do my best to help Sean find help and services as a volunteer. At some point early on, I did call the sheriff's office back and learned that Bo Fisher no longer worked for the sheriff's department. You think we could get Bo Fisher back? This is literally the only officer in this town who did anything to actually try to help. The only officer who wasn't full of shit and outright lying. Is that a hair or did I scratch my face? Yeah, fuck it, it don't matter. Let's see. From that point, let's see. Learned that Bo Fisher no longer worked for the sheriff's department. I did speak a couple of times to a Deputy Holloway, and I explained that I was Sean Holloway. Explained that I was a volunteer and that both Sean and myself had called multiple agencies over many months looking for supports and services with little success. There were two other times that Sean handed a deputy or state patrol officer his phone to speak to me directly. Each time I shared I was an autism advocate and shared the struggles of finding resources was a real ongoing issue. Sean explained that he felt more comfortable having me on the phone than speaking to them alone. That's because of what they do when you have to go speak to them alone. Sure, she's not there in person, but there's a little bit of safety there. Of course, it's not like she's going to call anybody up if they trump up charges even while she's on the phone and arrest me. How do I know? She was on the phone with me when they arrested me on trumped up charges. And we're going to go through that paperwork here in the next videos. We'll break it down into hopefully only 4 separate parts. One for each of my predators. Well, each of the 4 predators I was trying to turn in at the time. All right. Let's see, where were we? Sean explained that he felt more comfortable having me on the phone than speaking to them alone. I recently spoke to the sheriff and explained that Sean was not able to go to the courthouse to license a vehicle because of a protection order against him by an employee of the sheriff's office. He already knew that. He helped her to get that, and she was able to use her knowledge of the situations with me, as well as the situations with the other supposed victims, my predators who I was trying to turn in, in order to manipulate the situation and manipulate her position to get a protection order that I was illegally prevented from going to, about a video where I literally was explaining that I'm not willing to kill people and that this is many people's suggestion that I go for or that I have gone to for help. They're like, you should have just shot him. No, that makes them a martyr. How is that going to help anyone? All right. Let's see. It says, I recently spoke to the sheriff and explained that Sean was not able to go to the courthouse to license a vehicle because of a protection order against him by an employee of the sheriff's office. Well, duh. It says, I asked how he can register a vehicle if he can't go to the building. They said that he could go when that person goes to lunch between 12 or 1. First of all, that doesn't stop any of these issues. I still have to go in alone. These are still the predators I'm trying to turn in. Penny Cooper did go in with me so that I could make sure that that was taken care of. And that is recorded. I have it recorded. No, it's not on YouTube because obviously there's personal info. Let's see. He said that he could go in when that person goes to lunch between 12 and 1, or they could accompany him for an appointment. Going to my predators for an accompaniment? Are you out of your fucking mind? He is concerned that just a verbal offer from the sheriff was not enough to ensure he wouldn't get charged with violating the protection order when the address is on the order. Yeah. I cannot safely go to the Dual County Sheriff's Department, whether she is on lunch or not. I am the one who needed the protection order. I needed a protection order from Natalie's druggy friends, from her druggy ex-boyfriends. I needed a protection order from Scott DaCosta, and a protection order from Robert Warnick, and a protection order from Christopher Kurth. Because these people were allowed to repeatedly get away with it, Christopher Kurth was allowed to repeatedly harass me and threaten me and attempt to intimidate me. And of course, I got recorded conversations with Sandy Fromm on my YouTube about that. I'm sure she is not happy about that. She threatened to kill me over that shit. At least I told the truth. You say I'm not trying to get help. We've called all of these places. We've jumped through all of these hoops. There's got to be a way to... Come on, zoom in. Maybe if we shake it a bit. No, it doesn't look like... All right, maybe there, about there, maybe. I think... I don't know if that's readable to you guys or not. Oh, there it goes. It finally zooms in right at the last moment. Obviously, yes. I did tell the truth. Come on now. Meanwhile, Joan Hanson is obviously, most of the people that work there are friends with each other. Obviously, they don't want to piss off a crooked fucking sheriff. It ain't going to do them any good, is it? So they all end up breaking the law. Whether it's because they're friends or because they're afraid, they still broke the law. I had spoken with Joan Hanson on multiple occasions about Sheriff Scott Costa and turning him in. Obviously, Scott Costa is friends with these people. Many of the things that they said showed that. Many of their actions showed that. Now, that crooked sheriff that I was telling you about from before, Jim Haith, he used to date Paulie Olson. One of the people in later videos, you're going to find out why that's important. We're going to read this letter from the Autism Society. I guess for safety reasons, I better find some electrical tape to put over this or something. On the last page, anyway. It says, December 21st, 2020. Sergeant Jones and Judge Rowland. Sean Schwartz has asked me to document and share this information with you. My name is Meg. I am a volunteer on the State Board of the Autism Society of Nebraska, ASN. ASN is a statewide 501c3 nonprofit run by volunteers. ASN provides community support, activities, and information. We are funded by private sector fundraisers, events, and grants. ASN is not government funded. ASN provides no direct services for money. Sean Schwartz contacted the Autism Society of Nebraska in February 2020 looking for resources. At that time, Sean was homeless, had lost his Social Security disability income, had no Medicaid or SNAP benefits, no transportation, and an expired driver's license. He explained his situation to me in detail, including his being a person of interest in the Natalie Bollinger murder case. It wasn't murder, it was assisted suicide. He also stated he was a victim of harassment and assault both before and after that accusation. He expressly stated that he needed help in person and why. Sean explained that he needed help with his living issues and stated he also needed assistance in person to go over, organize, and submit criminal evidence that he says he has compiled on recording devices and paper. He explained that he did not feel safe in doing so alone and wanted assistance. Sean specifically asked for an advocate and/or caseworker who could help him in person and accompany him with all legal matters, including financial situations, court and police filings. Sean had shared his executive functioning issues that impact his ability to organize and manage detailed tasks. I can organize and manage detailed tasks, just not under severe stress, looking over my shoulder. You know what? I'd do a lot better if I was being shot at. I do mean that literally. Under a situation like that, yeah. Of course, we won't know that unless that situation happens. Obviously, I'm unarmed. I don't carry weapons. I don't walk around pointing weapons at people. I don't go threatening people with weapons. If I'm getting shot at, well, just like many of the people that I talk about, how they say they do this and they do that. In reality, you probably don't have the gun when you need it, if you have one at all. If somebody wants to shoot me, I don't even have a knife to defend myself with. I don't even own a butter knife, so far as I know. There might be one in my mess kit. Those of you who don't know what a mess kit is, look it up. MESSKIT. All right. let's see. I shared with Sean that while I worked on helping him with housing, SSI disability income, Medicaid, and getting his driver's license back, I would also, and see, these things were all taken away from me because its situation with crooked law enforcement is protocol nationwide. If you try to turn in a bad cop, you get blackballed by everybody. So when I got, this is before I was put in prison, by the way. This is right after the assault by Sheriff Scott DaCosta and State Trooper Lassen. And I explained to him, first of all, you can't give me Steve Elmshauser. He's not going to do his job. Second of all, there is a conflict of interest with Steve Elmshauser. There is a conflict of interest with Scott DaCosta. There is a conflict of interest with Jonathan Starkey, who is the county prosecutor. These guys are friends. It's a small town. Fuck, right? And you wonder why they didn't do anything before Natalie was killed. This is how they treat people who they consider mentally ill. And you say, God bless America. He hasn't. All right. He certainly hasn't blessed America. He's blessed the rich and powerful. How did they get powerful and rich? By ripping you off, dumbass. Let's see, it says, I also shared with him that I was not able to travel to Chapel. I contacted numerous agencies and made dozens of calls to try and get help for Sean. I asked each one of those agencies for ideas and additional agencies to call. I was unsuccessful in finding him a caseworker, legal advocate, or autism advocate that could help him in person or remotely. I know that Sean has also made a large number of calls to the same agencies with no luck. These agencies who take your money and you believe that they help disabled people, and that's why you pay your taxes, and you say, you know what? I'd gladly pay my taxes to these places that help these people, but they're not. So don't be so glad about paying your taxes. They're not going to what you think they are. $100,000 worth of your taxes went to imprisoning me to try to cover up Scott DaCosta's crimes, Leslie Snell's crimes, and Robert Warnick's crimes. And now when I say Scott DaCosta, we're not talking about just the sheriff. We're talking about his entire department. I mean, I believe he's on roll call number 3. None of the officers or none of the deputies that worked here when this first started work here. The whole second set of officers that he hired, none of them still work here. Fuck. In 5 years, he's gone through almost 20 officers. This is a small town of 500 people, and he's gone through almost 20 officers. Possibly more. All right. I have now been volunteering my time with Sean for 9 months. In September, Sean told me that Dual County Deputy Sheriff Holloway had told him that I would be someone who would talk to the sheriff's office on Sean's behalf and vice versa. This was never my understanding, and if I had known that in the beginning, I would have explained to all parties that I was simply trying to help find resources for Sean and that I have a very limited scope as a volunteer. It says, I was able to help Sean get his SSI disability benefits started. He does now have Medicaid, a very small amount of SNAP benefits monthly, only $16 per month, and a valid driver's license. Obviously, this was written before the first one that I read to you, and I do apologize for not reading this one. She did reference it in that one. It says, let's see, and a valid driver's license. It is my opinion, or it is my understanding, that Sean won't be permitted to live in Nebraska public housing for likely 2 years based on information from Chapel Housing Authority. His limited disability income is not enough to cover typical rent or mortgage options. I am unaware of any options for him to gain safe shelter. Safe shelter. I was made homeless because Natalie Bollinger got shot in the head by somebody else, after I was victimized and stalked for over a year before she was shot. While going to services that are supposed to help the disabled, going to mandated reporters over and 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 over. Now, obviously, all of these places redirecting me, we don't get to focus on any of this. We're too busy jumping through the hoops that we got to jump through, that we're told that if we jump through these hoops, then we'll get help. Now, I explain to these people every time I got to start over with somebody new, it's not going to do any good, but at least if you go through it with me, you can bear witness to the fact that it didn't do any good. That the American government is fleecing the American public for their tax dollars by making pretendy services, fake services, to waste your tax dollars. God bless America, right? That's right, I said GOB. G-O-B. If that's an acronym for something nasty, please don't tell me. It says, Sean said he does not feel safe moving. Oh, wait. Sean has said he does not feel safe moving at this time. His need for structure and familiarity outweighs his desire to be closer to loved ones. That is not true. It does not outweigh my desire to be closer to loved ones. I can't get closer to my loved ones. My older brother lives in the state of fucking Colorado. Me and my brother don't talk because he's a fucking child molester. My mom don't give a shit. Going to see Amanda, that'd be great. She is definitely one of my favorite people that is still alive. You know, I did have a crush on her back in the day. I really did. Now I look at her as a mom, you know. And that's not to say there's anything wrong with moms, but I mean, it's difficult to explain it. It really is. Like the situation with Jamie Curtis. I'd known her since she was 9. You know, she was in her 20s by the time she started messing with my head and pretending she was interested in me. And it was just completely grossing me out, you know. I'd known her since she was 9. She's basically that 9-year-old in my head forever and a fucking day. Of course, she was extremely pushy until I gave her what she wanted. Then she was no longer interested. That's obviously not related to this all that much, is it? So we'll finish what it says. It says, his need for structure and familiarity outweighs his desire to be closer to loved ones because there is not yet structure and support in place for a move. And that's entirely wrong. All of it. I mean, that familiarity, you know, that familiarity is my loved ones. Now, at this point in time, we'd already been outright lied to. At this point in time, we had been told that there's no warrants for me in Colorado, and I had explained there are warrants for me. Well, no, there's not. We checked. No, dude, they're hidden. Oh, I'll check. Nope, no hidden warrants. No hidden warrants. And that's what this is based on. She's assuming that because Sheriff DaCosta said that there were no warrants for me and no hidden warrants. And I had explained to him, and this is recorded, I had explained to him, I have called the state of Colorado. I have called Officer Abel Ramos. That conversation is on my YouTube. He does tell me that there are warrants. I did inform Sheriff Scott Costa of this, and he wanted to argue, and obviously I was right. Bank error in his fucking favor. It's not that it outweighs it. It's that she believed what the fucking crooked pig I was trying to turn in said, instead of believing me and looking at the fucking evidence. You goddamn right I recorded that call with Abel Ramos. Don't be dumb enough to believe my fucking predators. Look at the goddamn evidence. I posted up for a fucking reason. Now let's continue. It says he is currently seeking the support he needs to be able to move at some point in the future. And y'all know how expensive it is to move and the emotional turmoil you got to go through. I got one lady who was telling me about how stressful it was for her to have to move 8 years ago, and she couldn't imagine having to do it every year, let alone 40 times in a 4-year period. Fucking ingrown hair right there. Ooh, yeah. Sean also stated he is afraid to file reports to the Dual County Sheriff's Office or the Boulder Police Department without an advocate or caseworker physically present. Sean stated to me that he has been trying to find someone to accompany him in person since 2017. Now, the hell is that squeaking? There must be a train stopping or something, because the tracks, when they get icy, sometimes when the trains try to stop, it makes a squeak. Nope, no train going by. I'm not sure if that squeak was loud enough to get picked up by the microphone here. Um, I needed somebody there with me in person. Now, obviously, Miss Peaches wanted to pretend like she'd gone in with me in person, but she hadn't. She didn't go in with me in person to talk to the police before Natalie died. She didn't go in with me to talk to the police after Natalie died. And no point in time was she in the same room with me for my own safety to prevent these cops from committing the crimes that they committed. But Raja, when Miss Peaches was pissed off at me because one of her friends and drug dealers, who had been one of my predators and people who was threatening to kill me by the name of Blaine McCrelius, yeah, then I got to deal with Peaches being a POS. I got to deal with Raja claiming that 3 people, 3 adults from his family, had gone in with me to make these reports. No, the fuck they didn't. You're just trying to cover your own ass, you fucking coward. Raja, you are such a POS. I love you, but you're a fucking coward. Straight up. All right, it says, Sean stated to me that he has been trying to find someone to accompany him in person since 2017. That's right. And I finally had somebody to help me with that. Tamara. Through all of this, Tamara has been the one person that I went to who took this shit seriously. Why wouldn't she? She's got a son with Asperger's. Let's continue. It says, I have exhausted all avenues that I know of to help Sean with what he needs locally or even at a distance. There is nothing more I can do. And then she signed her name concerning Judge Randon Rowland, Sergeant Jones, and the Autism Society of Nebraska. Now, obviously, the only way to get help with this is to appeal to the public and show you the truth. Your opinions are stupid. They're opinions. Fuck your opinions. Stick to facts. I'm sure I got it. There's a pencil. I could use that, I guess. That way we can try to keep her last name safe so that she's not targeted like a lot of other people claim that they were. Come on. If the public is kept in the dark, they'll allow just about anything. These people are supposed to help you. Those people are supposed to help you. These people are supposed to investigate it. Those people are supposed to investigate it. Holy shit. My disabilities, and much of this, it's not my disabilities that prevent me from doing this. It's the abuse that I've taken over having disabilities. The excuses that it must be okay because of my disabilities, or the exploitation of my disability.